Okay, well, hello, Victoria. Welcome to the Finally Free podcast.
Hi, Alana. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this.
Of course, I had to return the favor. I had a guest spot on your podcast. We had such a good time. We connected in the weirdest way with the whole anxious breathing as part of disordered eating. So that was like a bonding moment for us. So I definitely wanted to continue the conversation with you. So
Yeah,
to start off, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do?
of course. So my name is Victoria Kleinsman, and I'm a food freedom and body love coach. And the reason why I became a coach is because I've been on my own journey, as many of us have. And I had anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder, some domestic abuse in there too. And I just really felt such a strong pull when I was healed. You never fully heal, right? It's a consistent ongoing journey. I just had such a strong desire to help women get where I was and where I am, because knowing how incredibly infatuating in such a bad way it is to be in an eating disorder, I wanted women to feel the way I feel and the way I felt when I was free, because there's no feeling that can be described when you're free from that. And I know you understand how that feels. So I just have made it my life mission to help women get to where I am and be free from all of that.
That's awesome. I feel like there's so many of us in this space that come to this work because we've seen the journey, we've been on that journey, and we want other people to experience that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know as well as I do, it's about so much more than food ultimately. We think it's about the food and we think it's about how we feel within ourselves. And yes, of course it is. That's what leads us to the path of personal and spiritual development. But it's so much more than that. And you just get to know yourself on such a deep level. The food stuff it becomes distant history very quickly. And then you fall down the rabbit hole of personal and spiritual development, and then that can become an obsession, which it was for me. But now I really think I've found a balance of continuing to learn, understanding we'll never know it all, and also being okay with that and just meeting myself where I'm at.
Yeah, and I really love that you said the feeling of freedom that you have now as an intuitive eater, as somebody who's healed. There's no way to describe it, and it's freeing and it's amazing, and it's like you can finally take a breath, almost like a full breath. Like that's like really kind of how it feels. But you did say that it is an ever-going process and the work isn't completely done. So can you give us your definition of recovery and what that looks like and what it doesn't look like?
Absolutely. So for me, and of course, I can only take my clients to the same level of where I have gone and where I am, and that's very far at the moment, but I'm continuing to learn always. So recovery for me and my clients, because again, I can take them where I am, looks like eating just being easy and effortless and pleasurable and fun. And yes, we think about food, but not in the way we used to. I mean, I'm sure your listeners can resonate. You're no longer lying in bed, like going through a tally of like what and how much you've eaten that day. You're no longer being worried or anxious about how much weight you might have put on because you had a binge that night. Like eating just becomes as easy as choosing what to drink when you go to a cafe or going to the toilet. It's just a natural, fun part of life. In terms of body image, for me, that was the most challenging thing to work through. The food stuff came pretty quick for me and my clients also. The body image stuff, I would say, is ongoing. Not that you don't feel free. So I feel completely free, fully accepting, in love with myself and my body every day now. Do I have days where I find it more difficult to like the way I look? Absolutely. And that changes day to day, depending on where I am in my cycle, depending on where my emotional regulation is, because our bodies are the best scapegoats, because we've been taught to use our bodies as a scapegoat. Something's going wrong in your relationship, automatically, unconsciously, oh, must be my body's fault, must need to lose weight, need to work out more. But when you become aware of all of that, it's so much easier to first of all shift it really quickly. And now I just like smile at myself lovingly. And I'm like, that is so cute. How your automatic thought was to like go to an old thought to do with your body when it has nothing to do with your body. And then, so I would say the body image challenges when you're recovered are very, very far and few in between. And they take up seconds of your brain space compared to they used to take up, I would say 99% of my whole entire day, every day. So that's what recovery is to me. Being free, happy, fun, accepting, liberated.
Yeah. And I love that you are so honest about that. And I am as well. Like, we all have these days where we have bad body images, or we don't like what we see in the mirror, or we wish it was different, or we kind of go back into those old thought patterns. But we now have the tools as recovered individuals to snap ourselves back out of that very quickly. And, we're human, right? We're human in a fat phobic society, in a thin obsessed world. So of course we're still going to have those thoughts, but you can't control your initial thought. You can only control the next thought that comes after that. And that's where the tools that you give to your clients and I give to my clients, that's where those tools come in.
Exactly that. And also I like to ask clients who are very far gone on their journey, and because they think what I used to think. And that is, when I came onto this body image journey, I used to think that healing your body image meant never having a bad body image thought ever again. And that's not true because of the reasons you've just shared. And so I like to ask my clients, well, okay, how many times occasionally, even though I know that you're happy with your life, how many times do you think, oh, I wish I had more money? I wish I could just go on this like Australian cruise, and that's just like a fleeting little thought, and it can be a desire, and you can feel into that and be like, oh, that would be so cool. And then you just let that go. So this is how my clients and I mean, not so much me anymore, because I've come so far, but I used to have a fleeting thought of, oh, I wish I was thinner again. And then, oh, that would be nice because of all the reasons in society that makes us think thin is good and fat is bad. And then you can just let it go and be like, that's sad. And just, without trying to force yourself to say you're wrong. We live in the world we live in, but honestly, like you said, Alana, it's hard to describe where we are now compared to where maybe your listeners will be now, or where we used to be. It's so hard to understand how you can genuinely be happy in yourself and accepting of yourself without looking a certain way. But when you shift your mindset, release your trauma, do all the work that we teach, everything changes, doesn't it? Your priorities with everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, what a beautiful way that you just said that. And I want everybody listening to kind of hear that again. You can have the thought, and you don't have to beat yourself up for having the thought. You could just say, oh yeah, it would be nice if I was thinner again, and then just let it go, instead of saying you shouldn't be thinking that, that's wrong, that's backsliding in recovery. It's a version of what I tell my clients of, like, you have to name the thought, you have to name the emotion you're having, and it's okay to have it, because if you recognize it and process it, you can let it go. So if you're having that feeling of, I wish I had more money, I wish I was thinner, and then you just say, yeah, that'd be nice, and then just let it be there, and then it kind of dissipates faster than if you try to fight it. But I want to back up a little bit, because you said that you love your body every day now. And I think for some people, they're going to be like, that's so impossible for me, or that feels so impossible for me because of where I am now. Like, I hate my body so much. I have no idea how to get to body love, or they might feel like they're in a place where that feels like toxic positivity. So can you define what body love is for you?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you've brought that up, because body love isn't, for me anyway, looking in the mirror every day and loving the way my body looks physically from an aesthetic standpoint. Some days it is, especially near ovulation, if the light hits right, few and far between, but it doesn't mean anything to me anymore, because I did want to talk about meaning. this is quite deep, and I'm just going to say it because it's how I work. In life, nothing means anything unless we choose a meaning for it. Yes, we have meanings passed down from society, from generations, all of that, again, fat is bad, thin is good, rich is, I mean, money is a different one, because people have all sorts of beliefs around that. But in general, we only create pain and suffering within ourselves when we choose to believe or to make a meaning for something. So if you looked in the mirror and you saw a body that you didn't like the look of, to start with, we would practice acceptance and neutrality, and also start lovingly challenging yourself. What am I making it mean? Because it's not about looking in the mirror and trying to think your fat body looks really nice, because that doesn't work and it makes you feel worse. Let's be honest. Doesn't matter how many people say to you how beautiful you are or whatever about your body, it won't touch you if you don't believe that yourself. So to start with, meet yourself where you're at. Like you said, name and feel the feelings of most likely shame, disappointment, fear, when you see the body that you don't like in the mirror. And then when you've expressed and just sat with yourself and your feelings, start asking yourself, okay, I don't like the way my body looks. What am I making that mean about myself and about my life? And really get curious of what comes up for you, because we get to create our own realities by choosing how we see reality, right? Through our thoughts. And yeah, it's making it up, but also saying that you hate your body is a made-up meaning. Saying that you love your body the way it looks is a made-up meaning. You may as well choose a meaning that actually makes you feel good. And I'll let you talk, because you're definitely in alignment with what I'm sharing right now.
I'm dying. I'm making also, if you're listening to this on the podcast and you're not watching on YouTube, I'm making all sorts of wild hand gestures. Yes. And that's, that kind of bleeds into what my next question was going to be of how we navigate the fear of weight gain. And it's a lot of clients are like, am I just lying to myself? Are you teaching me to just kind of be delusional in saying that oh, I'm okay with the weight gain, I'm okay in this larger body? And I said, it's not being delusional and it's not lying to yourself, because either way, you get to choose what you think. You either love the body or you hate the body. And there's no definitive truth about your body. So it's really your choice.
Exactly that. And before I go into how to deal with weight gain, I realized I didn't tie up the answer to your question. And body love means to me, this is the best way I can describe it. And I know I'm blessed to be able to have a mother that I can describe this with. But think of someone in your life right now. I mean, for me, it's my mum automatically. Whereas if someone showed you a photo of that person, you would just feel warm and fuzzy. And when I see a picture of my mum, I just feel warmth, just comforting warmth. And I know for so many clients that is not the case from their parents, and that's not okay. And that's really sad. But think of anyone in your life, maybe your kids, your dog, your partner, your parents, the way you would feel when you just see them. That's what body love to me is. So when I see myself in my entirety, it's not just my physical body. It's looking, yes, at myself objectively, but it's seeing all of me, not just my physical body. I feel a depth of love and peace and acceptance that, again, is hard to describe in words. You need to experience it for yourself. And that's what body love to me means. So I can look at my cellulite and think, I don't really like the look of the dimples on my skin. And as much as I do work around this, at the minute anyway, maybe one day in the future, I don't physically love the way my cellulite looks on my legs. I don't hate it. I fully accept it. And I've done a lot of work around that. And I'm confident to show it off. And I don't give a shit what people think. And that's freedom right there. Maybe I can go deeper. Let's see as I continue. But I don't love the way it looks, but I don't make it mean anything about me. It doesn't mean I'm less sexy, because I get to choose that. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean I'm less attractive. It doesn't mean I'm less worthy. I just practice a deeper level of acceptance. But in terms of body love, it is just that innate warmth of gratitude and love for who I am, including my body. I have legs that enable me to run and walk, and I have hands that help me to feed myself, and I have taste buds. How cool is that? Imagine if your taste buds disappeared overnight. I mean, holy shit, that would be awful.
Yes, it would be. It would probably, that's out of the five senses. I cannot lose my sense of taste. I think it would drive me insane.
Yeah, me too. So just like, gratitude, and start there with gratitude and neutrality, but I'll let you ask anything, Elana, before I go into weight gain. Have you have got any questions specifically around weight gain?
I definitely want to go in how to navigate the fear of that. If you have any tips and tricks, but before we even go to that, I just want to make a comment about what you said about body love. Is, when we're thinking about body love, again, a lot of people have this very singular, one-dimensional view of it, where it's just looking in the mirror and thinking you look like a goddess every day, and that's not really it. Like, if we really break down the definition of body and love, if we look at the word love is loving someone or something even when they don't meet your expectations, or you get angry at that person. Like, I think about love for, my toddler or my husband. It's, I can love them and wish that they were acting differently, right? I can love them and, I can love them, because of their flaws, in spite of their flaws. My toddler sometimes does things where I'm like, are you like acting like a little sociopath? Like, what are you doing? Just like a little monster. He's a toddler, so he has his tantrums, and but I still love him. So I respect my husband, even though sometimes I wish he would pick the socks up off the floor. But you know what? That's all love. That's all part of it. It's the good and the bad. It's the nuance. It's the word "and," right? I can love you and you're driving me insane. We have to apply that well-rounded, authentic type of love to our bodies and how we see them, and how we might not love everything about them, but as you say, we can respect the things that they do.
Absolutely. And what is it about men and socks, by the way? Anyone else relate to this?
God help me. And it's always like next to the hamper, like they're
Yeah.
next. I'm like, I can't even, and it's insane. It's insane. But yeah, no, I and it goes both ways. Like, I, bother him with things that I do, and he still loves me, and he's seen me at my worst. And that's all a part of it. It's all a part of love. But I know, yeah, but it can be hard, as we were saying before, to love and navigate the weight gain, which usually comes up in an intuitive eating body love journey. So what are some tangible, realistic strategies that people who are starting this journey, who are afraid of the weight gain, what can they do to ease that fear?
Yeah. So first of all, the fear of weight gain isn't the same as actually gaining weight, because I've gained weight multiple times in my life and still been the heaviest I've ever been, and still been petrified of weight gain, even though I've gained the weight. So fear is like obviously always living in the future. Like, fear, I guess, is an assumption, or that pain's going to happen at some point. So that's why the fear is there. So that I think it's worth understanding that, like, when the worst case scenario happens, and when I say worst case scenario, for me, honestly, and this comes up on my Facebook from like 10 years ago, and I love to repost it every time it reminds me. There was this like alphabet thing where you had to answer these random questions, and the F question was, what are you like fearful of? What's your biggest fear? And I wrote down gaining weight. It was the biggest fear I've had, I would say, for my whole entire life, from the age of 9 till the age of 30. My biggest fear wouldn't be losing my mom or my parents or losing a loved one. It would be gaining weight. And I'm not shitting you. That's how petrified I was of gaining weight. Even though I'd actually gained weight, and again, been the heaviest I've ever been, and then lost it again, I was still petrified of weight gain. So you can rewire your fear of weight gain. I have, but you can't rewire your fear of weight gain if you're acting like a person who is afraid of weight gain. Now, what does that mean? I mean, this is just randomly coming to me. I would like each and every one of our listeners to like take a moment to write down in bullet points the action steps they're doing that shows them or anybody reading the action steps that they're afraid of weight gain. So these could look like trying to compensate after a binge by purging or exercising or then dieting the next day. It could look like not ordering the dessert you really want because, quote, calories. Any kind of restrictive behavior, any kind of avoidance of social situations as well. If you're afraid of like judgment from others because of weight gain, that would go under this bracket as well. So write down all the things that you currently do that is showing you that you're afraid of weight gain. Now, your brain is watching everything you do. Your brain, by the way, is just a tool. It's not biased one way or the other. It doesn't want you to feel shit or feel amazing. It doesn't care. It's just a tool, an organ. So when your brain is constantly watching you, like let's say your brain has its own personality, it's like, oh, well, she's doing everything to be afraid of weight gain. So I'm going to keep this fear of weight gain going for her because she clearly needs to be afraid of it. It's like, let's say if someone wasn't afraid of flowers and they wanted to train themselves to be afraid of flowers, well, first of all, it would be helpful for a society as a whole to be afraid of flowers. But that aside, if every time you saw a flower you would act afraid, or if you would read stories about why you need to be scared of flowers and flowers are rejected and all the things that we've learned as to why we're afraid of weight gain in the first place, you can train yourself to be afraid of something too with enough conditioning. So you can absolutely rewire the fear of weight gain, but it starts off by first of all wanting to rewire your fear of weight gain, meaning do you want to live the rest of your life forever being afraid of either gaining the weight back that you've probably lost, or being the heaviest you've ever been and being scared of maintaining that weight and probably gaining more weight? That just keeps you in the cycle when you've fucked up around food. And we both know that that is not a nice place to be. So number one is wanting to rewire your fear of weight gain. And that is scary because you may gain weight, you may lose weight, you may stay the same weight. Your body's going to do what it's going to do. Most of my clients actually stay the same or lose weight. Some gain, it depends. But if you're constantly binging because you're in a reaction from restriction, your natural set point weight tends to be less anyway. That doesn't really matter, and that's definitely not the point. But to rewire your fear of weight gain, you need to start with body acceptance. So similar to what I just spoke about before, about some mirror work, learning how to accept. I mean, acceptance really is a mindset choice in the moment, and the embodiment of that is surrender and then peace. My job as a coach is to get the clients every block removed that is stopping them from accepting, is only causing them suffering, but they're too scared to accept because they think all the blocks again that come to them. So my job is to remove all of those blocks with the client. When you're in an accepting place, you can then start to use your mindset tools and actually ask yourself these questions like, okay, if I gained weight, if I lost weight, how would my life actually be different? And write that down.
Yes. And if you really think about that, I mean, think about your career goals, your family goals, your friends. None of that changes with your weight. You can do, if you want to write a book, start a business, grow a family, you can do all of those things with, gaining 50 pounds, losing, but you can do it. And our journeys are so similar in that when I was at my lowest weight, number one, I was the most miserable. So the idea that weight gain or a weight loss causes happiness is complete bullshit. But so I was my most miserable at my lowest weight. I had anxiety to maintain that weight because it was unnatural for me to be that weight. So there's that anxiety piece, that fear piece that you were talking about. Fear is fear of the future. And the fear is also evolutionary, right? We were always looking for threats. When we were cave people, is there a mountain lion? What do I need to be afraid of in this moment? And we've carried that into this society where we feel like we have to fear fat, because if we are fat or we have gained weight, we don't feel safe in a society that glorifies thinness. and has a
Yeah.
stigma against weight. So there, that fear piece, it's valid from an evolutionary standpoint, but as you said, you need to work your clients through the fact that that fear isn't necessary in this particular context. And if you would have told me when I was at my lowest weight that I would have to gain X number of pounds to be recovered and confident and happy with who I am in my body and my life, I would have been petrified. But I had to learn how to remove that fear. And I think what you teach your clients is very similar to what I teach them, is that the circumstances are neutral. Gaining weight is a neutral experience. It's what thoughts and feelings we attribute to what those events that create our outcome. So if we want to be, as you were saying, I tell them to reverse engineer that. If your outcome, if you don't want to be afraid of weight anymore, if you don't want to fear weight gain, you have to change your emotions around weight gain, which means you have to change your thoughts around weight gain.
Yes, absolutely. And also, this was a really big one for me, especially as I was on my way into recovery more and more. I've gained weight, and what else have I gained? Oh my God, freedom around food, more connecting relationships, more self-confidence, which seems very ironic because when I was with the little six pack and doing the modeling, like, yeah, I looked hella confident. And from an external standpoint, I felt like I was, but it was very, very conditional. If I had a bloated belly, I would lose all confidence like overnight. But this confidence comes from within. And it's a whole different level of, well, it's connected to self-love and worthiness. That's why, because it shines from within. I am way more confident. So I've gained weight and I've actually gained more confidence in myself and my body, even though I still like the way my body looked way back when. It's hard to describe. I've gained weight and I've gained food freedom. I've gained weight and I've gained self-love. Like, what have you actually gained as well as weight? Because weight gain is not the worst thing in the world. I promise you that. And I know that it might, for many of your listeners, it may feel like it is because they probably spent their whole entire lives trying to avoid that, which is why they're listening to this. But when you rewire that and understand, like Alana's saying, it's what you're thinking. You need to change your thinking and your beliefs around food and body, and then you'll have a completely different life. And I do want to say this quote, and that is, thinness isn't an innate human need. However, love and acceptance are. Yet we think that we acquire love and acceptance via thinness, and that's a lie. We're sold that lie every day, and it's not your fault to think that either.
Absolutely. That was such a great quote to end on. Awesome. Okay, so I have one more question. Before we get to that question, I'm going to put this in the show notes everywhere that you can find Victoria, as well as a link to free access to the first few modules of her paid program, Body Love Binge program. So if you are interested in accessing those few modules, you can go to the link in the show notes. You can find Victoria at victoriakleinsman.com, on Facebook at Victoria Kleinsman, on Instagram, Victoria Kleinsman Official, TikTok, Victoria Kleinsman, the Body Love Binge podcast on all platforms, and on YouTube at Victoria Kleinsman. So she is everywhere and anywhere. If you are looking for a body love coach, definitely check her out. And before we end, I like to ask everyone the same question, because the podcast is called the Finally Free Podcast. What does it mean to you to be finally free?
That is a big question. What it means to me to be finally free is, I can truly live, Alana. I would not be here speaking to you, having my own successful business, whatever successful means, right? To me, it's successful, if I was still counting fucking calories, weighing spinach leaves, binging my face off, taking lax. I would not be able to have the capacity to be here and to love so many and support my clients if I did not heal myself and love myself, and then it can overflow from within. So it's my whole entire life, from changing my relationship with food and my body. I live now, did not just exist.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming on. As usual, this conversation was amazing. And I love hearing what you have to say, because it's, again, our stories are very similar, our philosophies are very similar, but to hear you say it in a different way, it hits differently.
Yes.
Love that.
That's so true. Yeah. You and I think you're the most aligned person I've had as a guest on my podcast, because obviously everyone I've had them on for a reason, but sometimes I'm like, but no, because but I've not had that. I think you and I are just like so aligned with everything we teach, which is just wonderful. So thank you for being on mine as well, and for sharing your wisdom with my listeners.
Absolutely. All right, guys, find Victoria everywhere she is so that you can get on the body love train and get food freedom. So Victoria, I'm sure I'll speak to you soon. I'll see you on the Undiet Your Mind website.
Yes, absolutely. What a great platform that is as well.
Yes, absolutely. All right, you have a great rest of your afternoon. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Lots of
Bye.
love. Bye-bye. Thank you.